After spending $60,000 to keep their house, my parents left me out of their will. Mom's next demand pushed me too far. What truth did I reveal to silence them? I'm Ava Thompson, a 34-year-old freelance photographer living in a modest apartment in Salem, Oregon, where winters dip to 35 degrees Fahrenheit and summers bloom with Pacific Northwest greenery. Each morning, I brew a pot of dark roast coffee, edit photos at my desk overlooking the Willamette River, and drive 5 miles to my studio, where my images capture the raw beauty of life. Portraits, landscapes, moments frozen in time. My work isn't always lucrative, but it's my heart, built through years of grit and late-night shoots. My family, though, never cared to understand it. To them, I'm the dependable older sister, the one in faded jeans and no makeup, always fixing their messes. My younger sister, Chloe, 3 years my junior, is their pride and joy, the carefree darling who can do no wrong. Growing up in our family's 2-story red brick house, 10 miles from downtown Salem, I learned early that love was a lopsided affair. Chloe, with her infectious laugh and effortless charm, was the star of every family event. At Thanksgiving, relatives would swarm her, exclaiming, "Chloe, you're glowing," or "Chloe, your YouTube channel's taking off." Amazing! Her giggles filled the dining room, her presence a beacon of adoration. Me? I was a shadow in family photos, barely noticed. If anyone mentioned me, it was a vague, "Ava's taking pictures or something," as if my career were a quirk not worth exploring. I believed that if I worked hard, stayed quiet, and carried their burdens, my parents, Michael and Susan Thompson, would one day see me with the same pride they showered on Chloe. But their eyes were always on her, their praise reserved for her every whim. The disparity was stark. I remember one Christmas when I was 16, sitting around our cedar table, the air rich with pine and Mom's cinnamon rolls. Chloe, then 13, unwrapped a $300 smartphone, her squeals echoing as relatives clapped. Dad handed her a gift card for a boutique, saying, "You're our sunshine, Chloe." My gift? A $20 camera strap with a note, "For Ava, keep snapping." Mom smiled and said, "You're so practical, Ava. You don't need much." I nodded, my throat tight, and retreated to my room, the sting of being an afterthought cutting deep. That was the pattern. Chloe's moments were celebrated with fanfare, mine with a shrug, if that. Family gatherings only deepened the divide. Chloe's high school graduation, held in our backyard 5 miles from town, was a spectacle: catered salmon, a live band, and a banner proclaiming Chloe's future. Her 21st birthday brought a weekend trip to a Portland loft, 50 miles away, with craft cocktails and a rooftop party. My milestones? A quiet dinner at home with store-bought pie, maybe a good job, Ava, if I pushed for it. When I landed my first $10,000 photography contract, Mom handed me a $25 grocery store cake and said, "You'll be fine, won't you?" No party, no cheers, just the assumption I'd keep grinding while Chloe dazzled. I told myself it was fine. In America, we're taught that family is about sacrifice, about showing up even when it's tough. I believed if I gave enough, my time, my money, my heart, they'd see me as more than the serious sister. I was proud of my work, building a studio that landed $50,000 contracts with galleries and brands. I valued self-respect, earned through perseverance and countless revisions. But my family didn't care. They never asked about the exhibits I'd curated, the clients I'd won, or the thrill of seeing my photos in magazines. When I mentioned my studio, Dad would nod vaguely, saying, "Sounds artsy," before turning to Chloe's latest vlog or fleeting job. The imbalance wasn't just emotional, it was financial. For nearly a decade, I supported their red brick house, sending $500 a month for their mortgage when Dad's mechanic shop struggled, plus $5,000 for a new roof, $2,000 for plumbing, and $1,500 for Mom's medications. Over time, I poured in $60,000, including $10,000 to save the house from foreclosure in 2018. They never asked if I could afford it, just said, "Chloe's figuring things out. Can you help?" I did, quietly, as if it were my duty to keep their home standing while Chloe chased her YouTube dreams. At family dinners, Chloe's tales of viral videos and fleeting gigs stole the show, her charm drawing gasps. If I spoke, the conversation shifted, my words fading. Chloe would tease, "Ava's the responsible one," and Mom would laugh, but their dismissal masked a truth. I was invisible unless they needed cash. The deepest cut came last year during a snowstorm 10 miles from home. Chloe was in LA, networking, and the house was quiet. Mom asked me to organize their bills, a routine task I'd done for years. In their cluttered study, I found a notebook where I'd logged every payment, $500 a month, $5,000 for the roof, $60,000 total. When I showed it to Mom, hoping for a nod of gratitude, she smiled absently. "Chloe's sensitive. She needs us more." I pressed, "What about me?" Her eyes didn't waver. You're strong, Ava. You don't need us to worry. That moment crystallized the truth. I wasn't their daughter in the way Chloe was. I was the one they called when the bank loomed, the one they overlooked when love was handed out. In America, we talk about family as a haven, where you're valued for who you are. I clung to that ideal, hoping my sacrifices would earn a place in their hearts. But that day, as I drove the 10 miles home through 25 degrees Fahrenheit snow, the truth settled like ice. I was their safety net, not their child. I kept hoping for a moment when they'd say, Ava, we're proud of you. But hope, I'd learn, could be a heavy chain if you carried it alone too long. The late afternoon light filtered through the kitchen window of my parents' red brick house in Salem, Oregon, 10 miles from my apartment, casting soft shadows on the oak dining table. The air was a crisp 60 degrees Fahrenheit, scented with Mom's orchids from the backyard. I'd stopped by, as I did every weekend, to help Susan, my mother, with her bills and paperwork, a task she struggled with due to her lack of tech savvy. That two-story house, where I'd poured $60,000, $500 a month for the mortgage, $5,000 for a new roof, $2,000 for plumbing, $1,500 for Mom's medications, felt like a second home. One I'd kept standing through a decade of sacrifice. Can you sort this? Susan asked, handing me a messy stack of papers before returning to her garden. I nodded, settling at the table, sifting through utility bills and tax forms, until my eyes caught a thick cream-colored envelope labeled estate plan and will. I hesitated, my fingers brushing the seal, not out of curiosity, but a reflex to ensure everything was in order. I'd always been the fixer, paying $60,000 to save their home from foreclosure, driving through 30 degrees Fahrenheit snowstorms to deliver Mom's meds, replacing shingles in pouring rain. But as I opened the envelope and flipped to the asset distribution page, a sharp pressure gripped my chest. The house, valued at $450,000, their $50,000 savings, the new SUV, even Mom's heirloom wedding ring. Everything was bequeathed to my younger sister, Chloe. My name? Absent, save for a vague line, we love both our daughters. I clenched the paper, my knuckles whitening, each word a betrayal of the years I'd spent holding their world together. Memories flooded back. Working 2 jobs to cover their $500 monthly mortgage, skipping vacations to fix their plumbing, wiring $10,000 in 2018 to stop the bank from seizing the house. Each sacrifice felt erased by that cold, printed sentence. Susan's light footsteps returned, her humming breaking the silence. Ava, did you find the statement? She asked, wiping dirt from her hands. I stood, the will in hand, my voice unervingly calm. Mom, is this real? She froze, her eyes darting to the paper, then to me. Oh, Ava, that. I cut her off, my throat tight, each word sharp. I've spent a lifetime caring for you and Dad, $60,000 to save this house, fixing the roof, paying your bills, and I'm written off like I never existed. Dad, Michael, entered from the living room, coffee mug in hand, his sigh casual, as if I'd complained about a minor chore. You don't need to react like this, Ava. You're doing fine. Chloe's still figuring things out. I laughed, a dry, humorless sound that startled even me. Figuring things out? She's 30, changes jobs every 3 months, lives off YouTube, and can't pay her phone bill. I'm the one who's kept this house, standing dollar by dollar. Susan stepped forward, her hand reaching for mine, as if touch could soothe the wound. Don't overthink it, Ava. I just wanted Chloe to feel secure. I pulled away, my gaze ice cold. Secure? And what about me? The one who's paid $500 a month, driven 10 miles through blizzards, replaced her shingles? Where's my security? Michael set his mug down, his tone patronizing. You're stable, Ava. Chloe needs the support. You've always been the strong one. The word strong hit like a slap, a label I'd worn to justify their neglect. Strong? I said, my voice rising, steady but fierce. I worked 2 jobs to cover your $450,000 mortgage. I paid $5,000 for the roof last winter, $2,000 for plumbing, $1,500 for Mom's meds. I saved this house from foreclosure, and you call me strong while giving everything to Chloe. Susan's eyes softened, but her words were hollow. We love you both, Ava. It's just, Chloe's sensitive. She needs us more. I shook my head, the weight of years pressing down. Sensitive? She's an adult who's never paid a bill, and you've enabled her while I've carried you all. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the fridge. Michael shifted, avoiding my gaze. You're making this bigger than it is, he muttered. I placed the will on the table, each movement deliberate, like returning a declaration of war. Thanks for showing me where I stand. I grabbed my coat, my steps steady toward the door. Susan called out, Ava, don't do this. But her voice lacked conviction. Michael said nothing, his mug still on the table. I walked out, the 60 degrees Fahrenheit air hitting my face, no one calling me back. For the first time, I didn't feel hurt, just empty, a hollow chill that settled deep. 2 weeks passed in silence, no calls, no texts, as if I'd never existed. I'd hoped for an apology, a shred of remorse, but instead, Dad texted, "Ava, this month's mortgage is due. Can you transfer $2,900 by Friday?" I stared, disbelief turning to a bitter laugh. No mention of the will. No, are you okay? Just a demand like I was their ATM. I typed back, each word cold. Chloe can handle it. That house is hers now, right? I set the phone down, not waiting for a reply. 10 minutes later, Susan messaged, "Ava, we need to talk. Don't do this." I didn't answer, the clarity ruthless. I wasn't angry anymore, just done playing savior. 3 days later, Chloe texted, her tone dripping with entitlement. "You're overreacting. Mom and Dad didn't mean it like that. You're independent, I'm not. You know that." I read it, my coffee cooling on the counter, and typed, "Prove you deserve what you got. Start with the mortgage." No response. A week later, Mom sent a $2,900 transfer request. No message, just a cold demand. I declined it instantly, my heart steady. Her call came seconds later. I let it ring, then declined. Her text followed, "Ava, why did you decline?" I replied, "It's not my responsibility. Ask Chloe." For the first time, I felt control, not scrambling to fix their mess, but standing firm in my truth. In America, we're taught that family is about love and fairness, but mine saw me as a tool, not a daughter. I'd given $60,000, my youth, my dreams, believing it would earn their pride. But their silence, their demands showed me otherwise. As I walked away from that house, the weight of their betrayal lingered, but so did a new resolve. I wouldn't carry their burdens anymore. They'd chosen Chloe, and now they'd face the cost of that choice, while I began to reclaim the life I'd put on hold for them. The oak dining table in my parents' red brick house in Salem, Oregon, felt like a battleground as I stood clutching their will, the cream-colored pages trembling in my hands. The 60 degrees Fahrenheit afternoon light streamed through the kitchen window, 10 miles from my apartment, but it couldn't warm the icy chill spreading through me. The document, leaving their $450,000 house, $50,000 savings SUV, and Mom's heirloom ring to my sister Chloe, had erased me, save for a hollow "We love both our daughters." Susan's dismissal, "Chloe needs it more," and Michael's patronizing "You're strong," echoed in my mind, each word a dagger in a wound I'd carried for 34 years. My heart ached, not just from the will, but from the deeper betrayal, a lifetime of giving $60,000, $500 a month for their mortgage, $5,000 for a roof, $2,000 for plumbing, $1,500 for Mom's meds, only to be deemed invisible. I'd always been the backbone of the Thompson family, the one who kept their world from crumbling. For a decade, I'd sent $500 a month to cover their mortgage, worked 2 jobs to save their home from foreclosure with $10,000, driven 10 miles through 30 degrees Fahrenheit snowstorms to deliver Susan's medications, and wired $5,000 for a new roof during a stormy winter. Each sacrifice was a silent plea for their love, a belief that my $60,000 and countless hours would earn me a place in their hearts. But that afternoon, as Susan's Chloe sensitive and Michael's "You're doing fine" rang in my ears, I realized those sacrifices had been for a family that saw me as a utility, not a daughter. The pain wasn't new. It was a wound reopened, raw, and searing. I flashed back to a year ago during a quiet dinner 10 miles from home. Chloe was in LA, networking, and I'd brought Susan her meds. I'd shown her my latest gallery exhibit, hoping for a spark of pride. She'd nodded absently, saying, "That's nice, Ava," before asking about Chloe's YouTube channel. I'd pressed, "What about my work?" Her eyes were distant. "You're strong, Ava. You don't need us to cheer." That moment had stung, but I'd buried it, believing my $60,000, $500 a month, $2,000 for plumbing, would eventually matter. Now, the will proved otherwise. Their choice to leave everything to Chloe, who'd never paid a bill, wasn't just neglect. It was a declaration that I wasn't family in the way she was. The betrayal deepened with their response. Susan's hand on mine, her "Don't overthink it," wasn't an apology but a dismissal, as if my pain were an inconvenience. Michael's "You're making this bigger than it is" echoed years of being sidelined, my $50,000 contracts ignored while Chloe's fleeting gigs drew praise. Chloe's absence from the confrontation, her silence in the weeks that followed, was its own wound. She'd taken their favor without question, never acknowledging the $500 I'd sent for her acting classes. Their demand 2 weeks later, "Can you transfer $2,900 for the mortgage?" without mentioning the will, was the final blow. They didn't ask, "Are you okay?" They saw me as their ATM, expecting $60,000 more, without a shred of gratitude. In America, we're taught that family is a sanctuary where you're valued for who you are, not what you provide. I'd clung to that ideal, valuing self-respect and perseverance, believing my sacrifices would earn their love. But I was wrong. I'd given $60,000, driven 10 miles to fix their lives, poured my heart into photos that graced magazines, and they'd never asked, "Ava, are you okay?" They'd called when the bank loomed, when Susan needed meds, when Chloe needed classes. But when I needed them, when I needed to be seen, to be loved, they were nowhere. The betrayal wasn't just the will, it was the realization that I'd been a tool, used when Chloe wasn't the star, discarded when she was. I thought of every moment I'd been compared to Chloe, her charm, her vlogs, her free spirit. At Christmas, 5 miles from home, relatives praised her latest video while my gallery opening was met with, "That's nice, Ava." Susan called my work artsy. Michael nodded along, and Chloe never said, "Ava's doing incredible things." I'd given $60,000, my youth, my dreams, and never heard a thank you that wasn't tied to another request. The hurt wasn't just emotional, it was a hollowing out of the hope I'd carried, a void where I'd believed I could earn their love. As I stood in that kitchen, the house I'd saved felt like a stranger's. The photos on my phone, me at exhibits, my studio's award night, were proof of a life I'd built alone. The family photos, tucked in a drawer, were relics of a lie. I'd been taught that perseverance meant showing up, even when it hurt. But that afternoon, the hurt was too deep, the betrayal too raw. My family had drawn a line, and I was on the outside, not because of what I'd done, but because of who I was, a woman whose strength they'd exploited. The pain wasn't just about a will, it was about losing the illusion that I'd ever been truly part of their world. The red brick house in Salem, Oregon, 10 miles from my apartment, faded in my rearview mirror as I drove away, the 60 degrees Fahrenheit afternoon air heavy with the weight of my parents' betrayal. The will I'd found, leaving their $450,000 home, $50,000 savings SUV, and Susan's heirloom ring to Chloe, had erased me, a cold dismissal of my $60,000 in sacrifices, $500 a month for their mortgage, $5,000 for a roof, $2,000 for plumbing, $1,500 for mom's medications. Susan's "Chloe needs it more" and Michael's "You're strong" had stung, but their demand 2 weeks later, "Can you transfer $2,900 for the mortgage?" without acknowledging the will, was the final straw. I'd given a decade of my life, $60,000, and countless 10-mile drives through 30 degrees Fahrenheit snowstorms, only to be treated as their ATM. I leaned back, my breath steadying. The decision wasn't impulsive. It was a line drawn after a decade of exploitation. I called my bank, removing my name from the joint account tied to their mortgage, and contacted the utility companies to end my role as their unofficial accountant. I deleted the bill reminders from my phone, each tap a small act of liberation. In America, we're taught that family is about love and fairness, but mine had shown me neither. I'd valued self-respect, built through late nights at my photography studio, where I'd landed $50,000 contracts. I'd valued perseverance, showing up for a family that didn't show up for me. But I was done. I closed my laptop, the click echoing like a door shutting on a chapter I'd outgrown. The next day, Susan's text came, "Ava, the landline's cut. Chloe can't log in. Help." I set the phone down, my coffee cold, and didn't reply. Chloe texted, "You're selfish. The power's about to go. Are you letting this happen?" I typed, "No, I'm letting you take responsibility." No response. A week later, Susan sent a $2,900 transfer request, no message, just a demand. I declined it, my heart steady. Her call followed. I let it ring, then declined. Her text, "Ava, why did you decline?" I replied, "It's not my responsibility. Ask Chloe." For the first time, I felt control, not scrambling to fix their mess but standing firm. 3 weeks later, the silence broke with a knock at my door. Chloe stood there, in a wrinkled hoodie, clutching a stack of bank documents, her eyes panicked. "5 minutes, Ava," she pleaded. "I need help with the bank. I don't understand their terms." I crossed my arms, unmoved. "What about your inheritance?" She mumbled, "It's tied up in investments." I'd lose money, withdrawing now. I raised an eyebrow. "You signed for everything without thinking, didn't you?" She looked down, silent. I stepped forward, closing the door behind me. "This is your lesson, Chloe. Everyone stumbles, but no one grows if someone's always catching them." She whispered, "You're letting them lose the house?" I shook my head. They made their choice. Now they live with it. I turned away, leaving her in the hallway, her panic no longer my burden. Days later, a call from Mrs. Evelyn Carter, their neighbor, confirmed the fallout. Susan asked about selling the house. "They're struggling." I thanked her, hung up, and felt no smugness, just fatigue. But that fatigue fueled my resolve. I opened my laptop and logged into Facebook, rarely used, and crafted a post. My family's sharing a one-sided story. Here's the truth. I attached the will, naming Chloe as sole beneficiary, and screenshots of my $60,000 in payments, $500 monthly, $10,000 for foreclosure, $5,000 for the roof. I added, my silence wasn't consent. I was waiting to tell the truth. Now's the moment. I hit post, my heart racing but steady. Within minutes, comments flooded in. Ava, you did all this? You're too kind for this. Friends shared it, strangers weighed in. No one should be used like that. The post spread, raw and honest, dismantling their narrative. 2 days later, Susan deleted her emotional posts. Michael deactivated his account. Chloe changed her profile to a cryptic flower image, her usual dramatic retreat. I didn't post again, didn't gloat. I sat in my 65 degrees Fahrenheit apartment, rain tapping the window, and felt justice. Not vengeance, but clarity. I'd given $60,000, my youth, my heart, believing it would earn their love. Their silence, their demands, had shown me otherwise. But that post, seen by thousands, stopped their public shaming, forcing them to face the truth they'd buried. I wasn't their ATM anymore. In America, we're taught that perseverance means showing up, but I'd shown up for a family that didn't show up for me. Now, I stood for myself, valuing the self-respect I'd earned through quiet strength. As I walked away from their demands, the weight of their betrayal lingered, but so did a new freedom. I wasn't just closing a door, I was opening one to a life where I defined my worth, not them. The fallout from my Facebook post, exposing my parents' will and my $60,000 in sacrifices, rippled through Salem, Oregon, like a stone dropped in a still lake. I'd walked away from their red brick house, 10 miles from my apartment, after Susan and Michael left me out of their $450,000 estate, giving everything to Chloe. My post, screenshots of $500 monthly mortgage payments, $10,000 to stop foreclosure, $5,000 for a roof, $2,000 for plumbing, had gone viral, shared by hundreds, dismantling their narrative of me as the ungrateful daughter. I'd canceled all support, declined their $2,900 demands, and faced Chloe's pleas at my door, refusing to be their lifeline. Now, as I sat in my 65 degrees Fahrenheit apartment, rain tapping the window, the consequences of their choices crashed down on the Thompson family, and I felt no urge to save them. Within days, their world unraveled. Susan deleted her emotional posts blaming me. Michael deactivated his Facebook, and Chloe's cryptic flower profile signaled her retreat. The post's reach, comments like, Ava, you're too kind and no one deserves this, turned their public shaming against them. Neighbors whispered, relatives distanced themselves, and Salem's tight-knit community, once charmed by Chloe's YouTube flair, questioned the family's integrity. Susan's calls stopped, her pleas for help. The landlines cut, help Chloe, replaced by silence. Michael's gruff demands, fix this, Ava, vanished, his pride buried under the weight of their exposure. The house, that $450,000 anchor I'd kept afloat, became their albatross. Without my $500 monthly payments, the mortgage defaulted. Mrs. Evelyn Carter, their neighbor, called. They're looking to sell, Ava. The bank's reassessing next week. I nodded, unsurprised. The roof I'd funded, the plumbing I'd fixed, the $10,000 I'd wired to stop foreclosure, gone, neglected by Chloe, who couldn't manage her inheritance. Real estate listings popped up. 218 Elm Street, $390,000, urgent sale. Marcus Reed, a realtor friend, texted. No offers. The wiring's faulty, roof's leaking. I shrugged, the house a mirror of their choices, run down, abandoned, with no one to save it. Chloe, now living with Susan and Michael, faced her reckoning. Her YouTube channel, once a source of family pride, stagnated as sponsors dropped her. Wary of the scandal. She texted, you're letting the power go, but her investment portfolio, inheritance, tied up and mismanaged, couldn't cover the $2,900 mortgage. Evelyn mentioned, Chloe's doing grocery runs, but she looks miserable. I sipped my coffee unmoved. Chloe, who'd never paid a bill, was learning the instability she'd coasted through while I'd sent $500 a month, $1,500 for Susan's meds, $500 for her classes. Her entitlement, once shielded by Susan's she's sensitive, crumbled under reality's weight. Susan and Michael struggled most. Without my $60,000, they sold family heirlooms, Susan's china, Michael's tools, to cover bills. Michael took night shifts at his mechanic shop, his health fading, while Susan's orchid garden withered, untended. Their colonial-style home, once a hub of barbecues 5 miles from town and Portland trips 50 miles away, faced foreclosure. Relatives, who'd once praised Chloe's vlogs, stopped visiting, their silence louder than their past cheers. My cousin Laura, 20 miles away in Kaiser, texted, "Ava, everyone's shocked. They're saying you exposed them." I replied, "They exposed themselves. I just showed the truth." Her silence echoed the family's collapse. Chloe's final plea came a month later, a desperate text. "Ava, the bank's taking the house. You're heartless." I stood in my kitchen, the 68 degrees Fahrenheit air soft through an open window, and didn't reply. Heartless? I'd given $60,000, my youth, my dreams, and they dismissed me as strong, to justify their neglect. I wasn't seeking revenge. I'd let their choices catch up. The truth, my post, seen by thousands, had stripped their facade, forcing them to face their favoritism. Susan's last call, "We need you, it's serious," went unanswered. I'd given $300 a month, $1,000 for her surgery, $500 for Chloe's classes, and years of my life. Their pleas couldn't erase the will's betrayal. The fallout wasn't just financial, it was social. Family traditions, Christmas feasts, summer escapes to Portland, vanished. Susan and Michael, once blind to Chloe's flaws, grappled with their role in her failure. Michael's apology, "We made a mistake," at my door was too late, drowned by years of "Chloe needs us." Chloe, once their golden child, faced whispers in Salem's cafes, her charm no match for her exposed deceit. They blamed me, their anger a shield against their own failures, but I didn't carry that weight. I'd given $60,000, my time, my heart, and they'd given me a will that erased me. Now they were learning that even family ties break when built on exploitation. In America, we're taught that perseverance means showing up, but I'd shown up for a family that didn't show up for me. Their consequences weren't my fault. They were the result of a life built on taking without giving back. As their house listed for $360,000, no buyers, I felt no smugness, just release. I'd stopped being their savior, and the freedom was lighter than any duty I'd carried. The storm of my family's fallout settled into a quiet aftermath, the echoes of my viral Facebook post, exposing their will and my $60,000 in sacrifices, fading but leaving a permanent mark. I'd walked away from their red brick house in Salem, Oregon, 10 miles from my apartment, after Susan and Michael left me out of their $450,000 estate, giving everything to Chloe. I'd canceled $500 monthly payments, declined $2,900 demands, and faced Chloe's pleas, refusing to be their lifeline. Now, in my 65 degrees Fahrenheit apartment, the Willamette River glinting outside, I found peace, not fleeting, but the deep calm of choosing myself over a family that never chose me. I returned to my routine, sunlight warming my hardwood floors where I edited photos. My studio, 5 miles away, buzzed with creativity. My $50,000 contract's a testament to grit. I'd spent 34 years being their fixer, $60,000 for their mortgage, roof, plumbing, Susan's meds. But their will had erased me. That betrayal, coupled with their "Chloe needs it more," had pushed me to set boundaries. It opened a life where I wasn't the savior, but the one who mattered. I redirected the $500 I'd sent monthly to a savings fund, booking a fall trip to Seattle, 180 miles north, where 55 degrees Fahrenheit rains and vibrant leaves rekindled my photography. I joined an art class 3 miles away, capturing portraits that spoke of resilience. I bought a semi-pro camera, a $1,200 dream I'd shelved for their bills, its weight a quiet rebellion against $20 camera straps I'd accepted as a kid. My phone stayed silent, no more pleas from Susan, rants from Chloe, or demands from Michael. The silence wasn't empty, it was freeing. I'd believed family was sacred, but mine had shown otherwise. True family, I learned, is about respect, not blood. I found it in new places. Rachel Bennett, a co-worker, invited me to her family's barbecue 10 miles away, where her dad toasted my exhibits with warmth I'd never known. Mrs. Evelyn Carter, a neighbor, shared her rhubarb pie, insisting I join her book club. These connections, built on kindness, filled the void my family left. Work became my haven. I landed a $75,000 contract for a national magazine, my photos gracing covers. I started teaching photography to high schoolers at a community center, their awe at framing shots mirroring my own rediscovery. My blog on breaking toxic family ties grew, readers writing, "You gave me courage to say no." I was helping others, and it healed me. The Thompsons' world collapsed. The $450,000 house, listed at $360,000, had no buyers, its leaky roof and faulty wiring, once my fixes, now their burden. Chloe, living with Susan and Michael, saw her YouTube channel stall, sponsors fleeing after my post. Evelyn noted, "Chloe's miserable, running errands." Susan sold her china, Michael worked nights, their pride gone. Family traditions, Christmas feasts, Portland trips 50 miles away. Ended, their home a shell of neglect. Susan's letter arrived, a blue envelope in her familiar script. I can't sleep, Ava. Michael's not strong. If you're willing, I'm here. I folded it, placing it in a drawer with old photos, not tearing it but not replying. I didn't hate them. I lacked the strength to sacrifice without being seen. Chloe's last text, "You're heartless, the bank's taking the house," went unanswered. I'd given $60,000, my youth, my heart, and they'd erased me. Their consequences weren't my fault. They'd chosen Chloe's fragility over my strength. One evening, as I sipped tea in my 68 degrees Fahrenheit loft, Marcus Reed, a realtor, texted, "Your parents' house dropped to $330,000.
No takers.
I nodded, the house a relic of duty I'd shed. I joined a hiking group 10 miles away, where strangers became friends over trails and campfires. I volunteered at a senior debt program, using my experience to help others avoid my family cycle. Each step built a new foundation where I was enough. As winter neared, I stood by Liberty Lake, 15 miles away, my camera capturing a boy and his laughing mother. I wasn't the girl who'd accepted $20 straps while Chloe got the world. I was Ava Thompson, a woman who'd learned true family lifts you up, not pulls you down. I'd given everything, and they'd given me a will that set me free. Now I lived for myself, and that was more than enough. As Ava Thompson, I poured $60,000 into my family's home, $500 a month for their mortgage, $10,000 to stop foreclosure, $5,000 for a roof, believing my sacrifices would earn their love. But their will, leaving everything to my sister Chloe, showed I was just their ATM. My strength exploited while Chloe's charm was celebrated. The betrayal stung, not just from the will but from their demand for $2,900 more, ignoring my pain. I'd spent 34 years chasing their approval, only to learn family isn't guaranteed by blood, but earned through respect. Walking away, I found peace by choosing myself, building a life of photography and true connections, free from their demands. To you, Americans who cherish family, I say, don't let loyalty blind you to being used. If your family takes without giving, set boundaries. Your worth isn't their validation, it's in the life you create. Don't waste years like I did, pouring into those who won't reciprocate. Recognize when you're the fixer, expected to carry the load, and step back. Say no without guilt. It's not selfish, it's survival. Build a circle that sees you, not your utility, friends, mentors, chosen family who lift you up. Perseverance isn't staying where you're diminished, it's walking toward those who value you. If I'd learned this sooner, I'd have saved my heart sooner. Start now. Value yourself, demand respect, and live for you, not their expectations. Freedom comes when you stop begging for love and start giving it to yourself.